Okay, time for a quick recap of the Industrial Revolution. First off, I want you to know that it started in Great Britain. From Great Britain, then it spread to the mainland of Europe, kind of into like Germany and Belgium, and also to the United States. So Britain first, then across the ocean to the United States, and across the English Channel to mainland Europe. Some new technological advances in this time period, some big ones that really revolutionized how we live our lives and how we just basically functioned as a society. The steel plow, big change from wood plows. Tractors, which made a huge advance in farming compared to plowing fields with horses and oxen, and also steam engines that would be used on trains and out on ships. Next up, I want you to know that government policies originally favored basically the big factory owners, the industrialists, over, sorry, let me get all these guys in here, over the common workers. Now there's two different key terms that I want you to know a lot of times they'll put on these tests. First one is captains of industry, the second one is robber barons. They're talking about the exact same group of very wealthy, powerful men, but captains of industry is a positive term, robber baron is looking at them in a negative way. A couple of these guys are Andrew Carnegie, John Rockefeller, Henry Ford, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Very, very wealthy, powerful, and influential men. Moving on. Unions developed to protect workers' rights and really kind of curb the power of some of these very wealthy, powerful industrialists. Know that unions, that's when all the workers in like a particular factory or industry all form together and they'll try to collectively bargain with the management, with the owners of the factory. Essentially, the main weapon that these unions had early on was the strike, which a strike is refusing to work. All the guys would go out and protest, refuse to come in and provide their labor, and then management a lot of times would come to terms with them and give them better wages, safer work conditions, or even reduce their hours. Another big problem at the time was child labor. Most of the unions were against that. Unfortunately, lots of kids as young as 8 or 10 years old would be forced to work in these factories to help provide a living for their families. Moving on, populism. It's a term you still hear in the news today. Sometimes I've heard President Obama use it in some of his speeches. Basically, populism is a movement of the common man, the average guy, the farmers out there, just people living out in middle America. And it's where these average guys are standing up to like the more wealthy, powerful bankers, industrialists, etc. The guy pictured right there is William Jennings Bryan. He was given very well known for giving a Cross of Gold speech. He was a passionate speaker, as you can see there, waving his arms around, very just kind of eccentric type guy, but he wanted to inflate the money supply, which would make it easier for farmers to pay their bills. Moving on. In cities early on, cities were generally divided up by racial and ethnic kind of districts. All right, a term you might be familiar with is ghetto, which a ghetto, that term comes from like an ethnic district within a city. Typically those areas were very poor. A lot of times the living conditions were just horrendous. Families would often be packed into really, really small apartments and unsafe living conditions. So it was a tough time for these new immigrants to get acclimated into American society. Moving on, the automotive industry, of course, huge here in Michigan. Big part of a lot of our families probably have somebody that works in the automotive industry. I want you to know Henry Ford. He didn't invent cars. He didn't invent the assembly line, but he did perfect the assembly line. He made it so that the car would move from worker to worker instead of the worker moving. Made it much more efficient, and he was able to produce cars in such an efficient manner that he made it affordable for the average person. So just normal people in America could start affording them. Really revolutionized how we live because now people can live much further away from where they work. And that's it for day one of the screencast. Now you can get the quiz from your teacher.